And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
John, faced with federal funding cuts, L.A. Metro Chair Janice Hahn is looking to the state of California's legislature to bail out the failing L.A. Metro and the BART system in the Bay Area.
So good news is the newly elected Assembly member Nick Schultz introduced Assembly Bill 939 last week, which would place a $20 million transit bond on the November 3rd statewide ballot to fund sustainable transportation throughout California. It doesn't seem like that much, $20 million. Is it $20 billion? Okay, yeah, good. I was like,
She wasn't a math major at Abilene Christian College.
I was like,
Well, that's not enough money for the bus drivers.
I was like,
Can anyone in the state do math?
By the way, we voted on a $20 billion bond measure to bail out Metro and BART and Muni, and we pay that back over the course of 20 years. Will public transit even be a thing in 20 years? The robocars are coming, people. They're already here.
I don't know about that, but I can tell you that Metro probably spends at least $20 million on Narcan alone.
I was like,
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is an assemblyman representing the Central Valley of California, Assemblyman David Tangipa. Assemblyman, thanks so much for stopping by.
It's an honor to join you.
So recently, you and a few other members of the California State Assembly, mostly Republicans, but some Democrats too, got bounced from the committees that you sit on by the Speaker of the Assembly, Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas, really without explanation, without notification. You just wake up one day, you open up the old laptop, you look at the news, and you say to yourself, oh, I got a hole in my schedule today because I no longer sit on that committee. What the hell happened?
I think it's because we are a few of the Assembly members that actually know how to do math. And, we didn't even get a chance, is what I tell a lot of people, to even be the rebel rousers that they actually wanted us to be, because we see the state of California. It is dire. And I want to warn everybody, there is no money left, especially after the LA fires. This whole entire house of cards that, in my opinion, floats in the middle of the river is about to fall apart because we've blown out the budget all over the place. And we started asking the hard questions because we want our constituents to be prepared of what it looks like when dereliction and negligence leads our state. And that is exactly what we are getting. And apparently that's not good enough for other individuals in the legislature, but they just gave us a whole lot more free time so that way we could still be as loud as we were before.
And just to be clear, because people don't follow the inner workings of the legislature too closely, you guys weren't kicked off these committees because you were being profane or vulgar or dressing inappropriately or anything like that. You were being punished because you were showing up prepared and asking questions that he did not want asked.
I would say we couldn't even get to the vulgarity or promiscuity because I didn't even get a chance to get onto the committee. The actual first insurance committee happened before or the day after I was already kicked off. I didn't get a chance to sit on the health committee, and I didn't get a chance to sit on the utilities and energies committee before I was removed. But it's simply from this legislative period that we had with the Trump litigation fund saying, where's the money? And we shouldn't protect criminal illegal immigrants like murderers, rapists, and robbers and burglars. And the fact that we just called this out was enough for them to remove us. And what I've heard individually is we were grandstanding and we were the outspoken Republicans. So we are the ones chosen to get removed from these committees. But it's not even being an outspoken Republican, because if they look back to the comments that we made, surprisingly, Gavin Newsom has agreed with us, kicked back that $50 million litigation fund and said he doesn't want to protect criminal illegal aliens. He kicked back, and now he's even talking about he doesn't support men and women's sports. So I don't even think I'm out of line. I just think this is doubling down on dumb, and this is how they silence us as part of their flailing while this whole thing fails.
Let's go back to the specific committee or one of the committees that you were kicked off of. You were kicked off the insurance committee. You look at right now at the state of California with the crisis that we have going on with the insurance industry, where you have companies like State Farm that are pulling out of the state altogether. They're no longer selling new homeowners policies. You look at Californians being kicked off their existing policies, even if the company is still doing business in the state. Many California homeowners are not being renewed. The prices of insurance policies in this state are going through the atmosphere because that's what the insurance companies say they need to do to stay in the state. And there's really no plan from the legislature. There's no plan from the governor. They just kicked the can over to the state insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, who has 1,000,001 different problems, including the fact that he really doesn't explain himself. He's almost in the witness protection program. It's only recently that he's been doing interviews, and the interviews are few and far between, and he doesn't really answer a lot of questions. People don't know if they're going to be insurable next year or the next time their policy comes up. People don't know if they're going to be able to afford the policies with all the rate increases that are coming down. Why wouldn't they want people who are poking holes in the arguments that clearly aren't working right now? Why don't they want as many prepared people as possible who are on these committees showing up and asking tough questions? Because clearly right now, whatever they're doing isn't working.
Well, it's because they like to follow the dead horse theory, that the easiest thing to do to get forward in life when you're on a dead horse is actually to get off and just start walking. But instead, they'd rather drag the dead horse, and instead of actually realizing and say, hey, we messed up. This is how it looks, is we were asking the hard questions. But you're 100% right. What we've seen right now is, in my opinion, and something that I've been saying, and I campaigned on for a year and a half, because I actually worked on one of the largest fires in California history. And I said, we are one major disaster away from collapsing the real estate industry here in California. And unfortunately, that happened on my fourth day of the legislative session. That happened with the Palisades and the Eaton fire. And if we look at the state of affairs right now, the FAIR Plan is underwater $680 million. And this reassessment that's coming is going to be a $1 billion reassessment that is issued by the insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara. And it will leave us with about $350 million in the bank. The FAIR Plan covers $450 billion. This is less than 1% that we are going to have for everybody else on the FAIR Plan. So does that mean that the next fire that comes in June or July or August or September, we will have to either issue another $1 billion assessment or maybe another $2 billion assessment or probably a $4 billion assessment to pull us out again? And they don't want to realize that that is the state that we are in right now. And the only way that insurance companies can come and work in this state, because we have artificial price control from Prop 103 back in 1988, is to exorbitantly raise prices. They're telling me right now that we do need an average home price and a home insurance cost of over $10,000 per home. What will that do to the California economy? That is exactly what I am trying to tell people and warn people, and this is their attempt to silence me on it.
Well, if there's any committee where you shouldn't be playing political games right now, it's that one, because clearly they have no answers to any of these problems that we're facing right now. And to play political games with that committee while Rome burns seems like a real bad idea.
I wholeheartedly agree. And this is the part, too, where we're seeing some blaming going on, and they're trying to blame the insurance companies. I'm trying to tell people right now, it is not the insurance companies. Insurance companies actually don't have control of pricing in the state of California. That falls under the insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara. Anytime you see a price increase that exceeds over 7%, that comes from the insurance commissioner. These companies are just trying to operate here, and they're trying to figure it out. But you can't have a $20 million home at a home insurance price of $2,000. It doesn't pencil out when it comes for businesses. And this is what you get when you have artificial rent control, price control in an industry that hasn't been adjusted properly to market valuation. You have these artificial home values with an artificially low home insurance that the market correction is going to collapse the system.
I know you're new to the legislature, but based on your experience so far, do you get the impression that they have any kind of long-term plan to fix the insurance industry in California? Or are they just trying to kick the can down the road until they term out? As we know, Ricardo Lara is a lame duck. We know Gavin Newsom is a lame duck. We know the speaker is eyeing a congressional seat in his part of California. Are they just trying to keep everything together until they're gone so it explodes on the next guy's watch?
I would say maybe a little bit. As we're seeing right now, Gavin Newsom's running straight towards the middle very, very hard. And he knows that. He doesn't have to play far-left politics because he's not running for an election that, in my opinion, would have to win the state of California. So even trying to kick the can down the road for these failures to materialize, they are materializing a lot faster than they would have assumed. And I mean, I'd almost essentially say it in the same way. Do you think the LA Council or maybe even the mayor have any long-term future projections? Because I can tell you this right now. Again, I have worked in one of the largest fires in California's history. The reassessment value that we had to do on about over 800 parcels, we reassessed from $450,000 down to a land value of about $100,000. You guys down there in LA, you're going to have to reassess 15,000 plus properties of potentially upwards of $20 million down towards a land value of $2 million. And a majority of LA County's property tax is going to be completely wiped away. So when you look at the city of San Francisco, and there's an $800 million deficit. When you look at the city of San Diego, and there's a $200+ million deficit, I can tell you right now, what do you think LA County's is in? That it is blown out, and all of these services, the programs that we've built, that same appetite of we're trying to fix an infinite number of problems with a finite amount of resources is what happens when you have people who don't understand that we've got a certain amount coming in and there's a certain amount that needs to go out. We don't have an unlimited amount of funds, but we're trying to fix everything, and we're just collapsing the entire system.
We're speaking with Assemblyman David Tangipa, who you can follow on X at David Tangipa. Assemblyman, the governor, Gavin Newsom, went on his podcast earlier this week with conservative influencer Charlie Kirk. And among other bombs that he dropped, he said he doesn't believe that biological men should be competing in women's sports. After he said that, any number of members of the Democratic caucus in both houses of the state legislature teed off on him on social media, including the LGBT caucus. Do you think that this is posturing, or do you think that he really upset them when he went on the podcast and said that?
I do think it's one of the things that I've tried to get people to realize is Gavin Newsom is extremely smart. He does a really good job at being a far-left liberal while trying to posture and look like a conservative. But not only that, I mean, let's think about it. His ex-wife is Kimberly Guilfoyle, who is the ex-fiance of Donald Trump Jr. So he can't be as far left as we have to assume when he's not in front of a camera. And also, we've got to realize that from all of the data, it shows that most people do not believe that men should play in women's sports. Look, I played football for Fresno State. Go Dogs. And we beat UCLA quite a few times, so I had to throw that in there. But when we're looking at it, it's not fair for just a general man who's born as a biological male to play in women's sports because, I mean, Title IX was the entire portion to make it fair and even. And Gavin Newsom sees that. He reads the data. He is now playing to the middle because if he wants to run for president, he has to be in that position. And they've created this circular firing squad here in California where they've propped themselves as whether they call themselves an ally or they call themselves the defender of some other position. And they're now going to have to reap what they sowed, that they're now going to be the evil, horrible, racist, sexist, anti-LGBTQ individual, because they're going to have to pick and choose where the funds go. They're going to have to pick and choose what gets cut. And we're starting to see these circular firing squads materialize. Democrats have 100% control of the state. They're about to get 100% blame of all the failures that are going to be here.
Let's assume that he really does try to position himself as a blue dog Democrat, a conservative Democrat, a moderate Democrat in preparation for his run for the Democratic nomination in 2028. He's going to have 2 years left as governor of California to try to prove himself. And that will be a shock to the system for many of your Democratic colleagues in the state legislature, where they're used to him being largely on the same page as them and him giving them most of everything that they want. If he starts saying no to them and starts vetoing their legislation and starts poking holes in their arguments publicly, they're really not going to like that. Do you think they're prepared for a governor who is going to push back on their agenda?
I definitely don't think they're prepared, because they're not even prepared for a new freshman member to come in and start talking about what we need to do. So I don't think they're prepared for that. I refer to it as a circular firing squad. That, in my opinion, this actually gives us, especially the super minority, the Republicans here, that if Gavin Newsom actually wants to be the blue dog Democrat, I want to see him put his money where his mouth is. I can give him kudos right now because he has exempted CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, from wildfire mitigation and management practices. So then let's see some more. If I can get additional water funding so that way we can get temperance flat here in the state of California so we could supplement the farmers that feed the world, then I want to see him say exactly what he's putting out there. Be the blue dog Democrat. Give us this opportunity, but I can tell you this, the legislature is not prepared for it. They do not understand what's going to go on. So there's going to be a push of he's trying to run to the middle. They're going to try to double down and pull further to the left, and they're going to have internal conflicts where I think we can come and negotiate and actually get things done that Californians want to do. Lower home prices, lower utilities, lower insurance, and housing availability so that way they can achieve the American dream.
Assemblyman David Tangipa. He represents the Central Valley in California in the state legislature. You can follow him on X at David Tangipa. Assemblyman David Tangipa, thanks so much for stopping by.
I've never heard somebody get my name right 3 times in a row, so I appreciate it.
Well, I did used to do sports.
Perfect. So go Dogs, and we'll beat UCLA again.
All right. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have a great weekend. Right now, it's time for KABC Dependable Traffic. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, now that we've hit the halfway point of today's show, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is go to KABC.com, click on podcast, go to the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and download all the podcasts. We have literally millions of podcasts to listen to. Wait, we have literally hundreds of podcasts to listen to. I got my math wrong.
I was like,
In the meantime, what do you say we make a couple of listeners very happy?
Let me just double check that we're still giving the same thing away, and we are. 790 KABC welcomes Herman's Hermit, starring Peter Noon at the Canyon in Agora Hills, April 4th. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Good luck dialing.
We do a lot of crime blotter stories on this program about people stealing Kias or Hyundais, using them as battering rams, and stealing ATMs from 7-Eleven, smoke shops, fill in the blank. And the assumption is they're going to take the cash out of the ATM and use that on whatever it is they want to use it on. But all of that leads to the question, well, what happens to the ATM? What do they do with the stolen ATM? You can't reuse it. It's of no use to them. Well, we found out All right, Randy, we know that the ATMs get stolen right and left, but where the hell do they end up?
Apparently, they end up off the 118 freeway in a ditch. Some people were doing some volunteer trash pickup off Highway 118 and found a treasure trove of busted up ATMs and safes.
My guess is these crimes are organized.
For more, here's KCal.
And now to a KCal News exclusive. Hidden along a busy freeway, we discovered a secret dumping ground, as you see here, where thieves had been ditching stolen ATM machines and safes. The dumping ground.
I guess they don't want to melt that crap down for scrap.
Oh, no, they're cutting bait.
The dumping ground is along the 118 highway in the Santa Susana Pass. Volunteer cleanup crews discovered the secret hiding spot, and KCal's Lauren Posen is now live in Chatsworth with this exclusive story. Lauren?
So not only did they steal from the ATM and probably steal a Kia to break down the door of a gas station to get that ATM, they also littered.
Give a hoot, don't pollute.
Juan, good evening. You know, this is just unbelievable. The bad guys never thought those stolen safes or ATMs would ever see the light of day again after ditching them here, until these volunteers found them. Your eyes aren't deceiving you. Look closely in the hills of the Santa Susana Pass, and you'll spot things that don't belong.
Somebody stole your safe. Come look for me.
David.
Can you imagine being the good Samaritan that stumbled upon this?
Somebody stole your safe. Come look for me.
Hey, maybe Karen Bash should head over there. Maybe her gun safe is in there.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole arsenal in one of them.
Somebody stole your safe. Come look for me.
David Weisberg is with the nonprofit Volunteers Cleaning Communities. They pick up trash along freeways and clean illegal dumping sites when he noticed something odd down a steep shoulder off the 118.
We come across this whole site that has a whole mess of...
I guarantee this is unincorporated LA County right on the border.
Usually they just dump all the trash in Holly Mitchell's district, don't they?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
A whole mess of safes. Looks like stolen safes. I'm like, what's going on here? So I hike down there and I find a whole bunch of paperwork all around. Passports, living trusts.
About a half...
Passports and trusts.
Imagine getting a call. You think that your passport was stolen, your living trust was stolen because your safe was stolen, and then someone from the government calls you and goes, "We found your passport, we found your trust, it's in a ditch out in Santa Susana."
About a half a mile down Santa Susana Pass Road, another discovery.
I look down, I see a big machine, and I hike down to it. I thought it was another safe or maybe a box. It's an
Are they pushing these things off the freeway and they just land like it's a Looney Tunes cartoon?
It sounds like it.
It's an ATM machine.
Stolen safes and ATMs wiped out, then ditched by criminals.
This is people. This is their lives and things that they need. And so I gathered it all up and I hiked it up.
Weisberg was able to track down...
Wait, how is that old man going to carry an entire ATM by himself?
I think it's in pieces now.
Oh, that's true.
Weisberg was able to track down one of the victims some 50 miles away.
And we talked to them on the phone. They said, yeah, we were robbed and we live in Glendora.
It's a phone call.
Glendora?
That's nowhere near Santa Susana, is it?
No.
It's a phone call that caught Ken Ramage by surprise.
And it was like, you got to be kidding. And they said, yeah, we've got all this paperwork and social security cards and stuff like that. And I said, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Security camera video.
How about that? The criminals didn't even think your Social Security card was worth stealing, so they threw it in a ditch.
I wonder if they're going to give the ATMs back to 7-Eleven.
Security camera video shows the moment thieves roll out his safe onto a dolly, then stuff it in the back of a car. Ramage says it happened over the summer, and most of the high valuable items were gone, like his family's antique guns and jewelry. But there were some treasures left behind, including his daughter's recent wedding photos.
I just thought these guys are pretty well organized. They know exactly the place. It's right off the 118. You get off, it's dark, there's no lights. They push.
How many different criminal organizations know off the 118 right before you hit Simi Valley is where you dump all the junk?
Now, I wonder if, like on Looney Tunes, when you go off the cliff if you just levitate there for a second so you can look around and realize that you actually walked off the cliff before you start to fall.
They push it over the edge, it falls down.
Now LAPD is on the case. The big question is connecting these safes and ATMs to crimes and tracking down the victims.
They were very surprised. They're like, safes? And like, yeah, several. And like, yeah, there's 7, 8 of them between this ATM.
As police work leads, Weisberg isn't putting anything past the thieves and their not-so-hidden graveyard he found.
Seems like quite the coincidence that on this particular hill, there's 7 safes down there, that they would all be dumped in the same spot. Makes me think it's the same ring.
Well, good job there, Matlock.
So where these safes and ATMs were found kind of fringes on both the Ventura and LA County borderline. LAPD was out.
Yeah, see, that's the very end of Chatsworth, which is unincorporated LA County, which means nobody really has jurisdiction over it.
Well, maybe when the guy was hiking and he saw all the safes down there and the ATMs, he thought that ATMs were native to the area like the desert tortoise.
LAPD was out here earlier today collecting evidence, and Weisberg says he'll be back out here Saturday with his team of volunteers to pick up all those ATMs and safes and get them out of the ground and discard them. Reporting live in Chatsworth, Lauren Posen, KCAL News.
What a find. All right, thank you so much, Lauren.
So if you got nothing going on this weekend, head up to Santa Susana Pass and Box Canyon and start digging for ATMs.
How do you get anyone to volunteer to go out in the middle of nowhere and pick up ATMs? unless he's saying some of them may still have some money in it, and then he's going to get every greedy person in that organization showing up with a hammer.
They're going to find a half-torn 20.
What would be the motivation for you to go down there and pick up broken ATMs? There is nothing you could say to me to get me to spend my Saturday in Santa Susana lugging ATMs out of a ditch.
Well, and now you know, and if you happen to be volunteering or even hiking in that area, look up because they might push an ATM that'll fall on you like Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, I need that like I need an ATM to the head. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Greg writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and says, I appreciate the Fix California Hour. As I was listening to it today, a bottle of water in my cup holder tipped over on me because I was driving a road in L.A. that's paved like the Ho Chi Minh Trail. No more money for this state until they show us what they've done with what we've already given them.
And Randy, we have an update on one of the deals that was brought to us by our favorite mayor of Oakland.
Oh, Shangy, we miss you so much.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The deal to sell the Oakland Coliseum to AASEG has hit yet another hurdle, has been delayed yet again, this time by Alameda County. What the heck is going on here? Is Oakland ever going to get the money that they were promised to fill their budget deficit? Let's find out. Here is NBC in the Bay Area.
Right now at 11 o'clock, the deal is in jeopardy. Tonight, the highly publicized plan to sell the Oakland Coliseum hit an 11th hour snag, leaving the sale in doubt. The Coliseum complex is one.
Every single aspect of this deal is suspect.
Yeah, it's not an 11th hour snag. It's a snag at high noon.
The Coliseum complex is one of the most historic and valuable sites in the Bay Area. Now that the Raiders...
Well, it was.
Yeah, she was willing to sell it for, what, $26 worth of trinkets?
And he said, absolutely.
Now that the Raiders, Warriors, and A's have left town, it's ripe for redevelopment. So what comes next? Here's NBC's Tom Jensen.
There are some concerns with the city of Oakland and some investors, but county attorneys say as long as they get 2 crucial documents from the investors, this deal will move forward.
That's right. The group buying the Coliseum didn't file the paperwork in on time.
You don't say.
Tonight was the deadline to get the...
It's just like, you remember Shangy? when she was offered that grant to deal with retail theft. And what happened, Johnny?
She forgot to turn it in on time.
Tonight was the deadline to get the deal done, even though that's...
I guarantee if she wasn't under a federal indictment right now, this group would have hired her because I think that was the plan.
Oh, to borrow a phrase, absolutely.
How are you?
Absolutely good.
Love to shake your hand.
Yes, it's been amazing.
Oh, it has.
Tonight was the deadline to get the deal done, even though that's come and gone. The main players in the complicated Coliseum deal, which includes multiple investors and buyers, 3 sales, and a lawsuit, remain up.
How do you feel if you're one of the venture capitalists that invested in ASEG saying we're going to buy the Coliseum, and it's a year later and they don't have a Coliseum?
Well, my guess is, and I assume we'll find out just exactly how this went down, but my guess is if you're an investor, you're investing under the assumption that this is just a front group to then turn it over to a developer and knock down the stadium and turn it into high-priced housing. The fact that this process is taking forever means it's going to take forever for you to see a return on your investment. And because the mayor was indicted by the feds, the whole house of cards may come down and you might lose it all.
Remain optimistic.
The good news is that they identified the specific 2 documents that they were looking for.
The founder of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group.
Don't you need to have all your ducks in a row before you file everything that you need with the county to make this sale? How are we this far away from when this whole thing started? You don't even know what paperwork you're supposed to turn in.
Well, and remember that group and the mayor would both get super indignant whenever someone would say they didn't think that the group had the money. They didn't think that the deal was going to go through. They didn't think that it was a legitimate offer and a legitimate negotiation.
I mean, Sheng did renegotiate that deal after it was already approved, and the renegotiation was, they don't have to give us any money until the deal's completely done at the end of June.
Way to bring them to their knees there, Ace.
The founder of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group, which struck a deal to buy the A's half of the Coliseum, says attorneys are already working tonight to get the needed paperwork to finish the deal.
And that is the release document from Communities for a Better Environment for the litigation between the A's, the county, and CBE. And they want the estoppel, which is just a deed document, which is very simple.
But
then why didn't you have it?
At this point, every deal that Sheng negotiated should be suspect.
But the city of Oakland is still concerned. They've seen deals fall apart before and are worried some investors will stick to their hard deadline and pull their financing.
And then the whole thing is done. And then what exactly is the city and the county supposed to do?
Why wouldn't you pull your financing? If you're looking at the slow motion train wreck and you know she's going to prison and she was the one that made this deal happen, what do you think is going to be the result?
It's taken too long for this process. We went down this process last year, and they've been negotiating with the county for some time, and their investors are ready to walk away from this deal if it does not happen today.
The county.
And it did not happen today.
No, it didn't.
The county remains confident after talking to its attorneys and investors.
I've heard it before that today's the last day, and that never happened. So we have time, I'm confident, but we do want to move it along.
And District 5 Supervisor Nikki Fortunata Bass, who has been heavily involved in the sale and development plans, says it's too big of a deal to let a little paperwork destroy everything.
Think about the government when it comes to, quote, a little paperwork. Think about being late on a payment for your taxes. Think about not renewing your driver's license on time. Think about not renewing your passport on time. Oh, well, we'll just pretend like that didn't happen. We'll let you get on that plane. No, that's not how it works.
A $3 billion investment over the next decade, she says, that will transform the property and Oakland.
There's just a few.
I mean, it's still going to be on the Hagenberger corridor, so I don't know exactly how much you're going to transform it. Also, you're going to develop into a bunch of housing with nothing entertaining to do there.
No, the whole point of having high-density housing in an area like that is having bars and restaurants and sporting events and theaters that you can walk to. Well, they all moved.
Oh, my God, they melted the basketball court.
Don't even have that.
There's just a few outstanding issues, as I understand it, from our staff, and so I'm looking forward to hearing that update, providing direction, and there's so much opportunity here, and I want us to be able to focus on that opportunity.
Again, the county and...
Yeah, but does this group actually have the money? Because they haven't paid any yet.
I didn't think they had the money from the moment they started talking about this deal.
Again, the county and the main investment group expect this to be just a minor delay, and they expect to get those documents to the county as early as tomorrow with the final vote on Tuesday. In Oakland, Tom Jensen, NBC Bay Area News.
Well, we'll see if it happens, if the Coliseum deal finally goes through, because the city of Oakland is completely screwed without it, thanks to you-know-who.
And we still got our Oakland A's, baby.
No, you don't.
Who knew? The city of Oakland would still be going through their Shangy hangover.
It's a Shanghang.
Absolutely. Absolutely.